97%. That's how much ETHZilla's stock has crashed since Peter Thiel bought in. And as of today's SEC filing, he's out. Every single share. Gone. But here's what nobody's connecting. On the same day Thiel bails on Ethereum, Europe's sixth largest bank just launched its euro stablecoin on the XRP ledger. And Ripple Payments is now settling over $1 trillion a quarter for real banks. So, is institutional money leaving Ethereum and flowing straight into Ripple's infrastructure? Let's break it down. So let me tell you the story of ETHZilla, because honestly, the name alone should have been a red flag. This was a company called 180 Life Sciences, a NASDAQ-listed biotech firm trading under the ticker ATNF. In late July 2025, they decided to pivot, not to a different biotech, but to an Ethereum treasury strategy. They rebranded to ETHZilla Corporation, ticker ETHZ, started trading on NASDAQ in August, and raised $425 million through a pipe deal with over 60 participants, including Electric Capital, Polychain Capital, and GSR. They accumulated 94,675 ETH at an average price of $3,902. Electric Capital was appointed as their external asset manager. They even formed a, quote, DeFi council to advise on growing the treasury. It all sounded very official. And then Peter Thiel showed up. Founders Fund disclosed a 7.5% stake, about 11.59 million shares. The stock jumped over 90% in a single session. The peak hit $107. And then reality happened. ETH started sliding. By October, the company was forced to sell roughly $40 million in Ether to fund share buybacks, trying to prop up the stock price. In December, another $74.5 million in ETH was liquidated. And as of today's SEC 13G filing, Peter Thiel and every affiliated Founders Fund entity own 0 shares, 0 voting power, 0 dispositive power, 0.0% stake. He's completely out. The stock is down 97% from its peak. And here's what makes this bigger than just one company. This isn't just an ETHZilla problem. Galaxy Digital warned that at least 5 digital asset treasury firms face asset sales, mergers, or outright closure in 2026. Every single one of the 20-plus DAT firms tracked by Artemis has unrealized losses, with cost basis above current spot prices. The total unrealized losses across all of them, $19 billion. The Ethereum-focused ones alone, Bitmine, SharpLink Gaming, and the Ethereum Machine, have a combined $9.7 billion in unrealized losses. And yeah, Sherwood News put it bluntly, quote, crypto treasury bets are entirely unprofitable, end quote. The premium era is over. ETF competition means investors can just buy ETH directly through a Grayscale or BlackRock fund. Why pay a premium for a shell company holding the same asset with added management risk and dilution? Now, here's the twist that makes this more interesting. Thiel didn't leave Ethereum entirely. He still holds a 4.5% stake in Bitmine Immersion Technologies, a separate ETH treasury and crypto mining company trading on NYSE under BMNR. Bitmine holds 163,000 ETH and plans to acquire 5% of the total ETH supply. Tom Lee from Fundstrat is involved. Cathie Wood poured $175 million into it through ARK Invest. But even Bitmine's Founders Fund position was trimmed from 9.1% to 4.5%. So what's the real story here? Thiel isn't abandoning Ethereum. He's abandoning the pure play treasury model. The companies that just hold crypto on a balance sheet and hope the number goes up, that model is dying. The ones that survive will need yield strategies, real business operations, institutional custody infrastructure. Basically, they need to become actual financial companies, not just glorified holding vehicles. And that realization is exactly what connects us to the next story. Okay, before I get to the next story, I want your honest take on this. Do you think the Ethereum treasury model, Companies that just hold ETH on a balance sheet can survive 2026, or is Peter Thiel right to bail? Drop your answer in the comments before you hear what happened today with SG Forge, because it might change your mind. So while Ethereum treasury companies are imploding, something genuinely significant happened today. And I mean literally today, February 18th. Société Générale Forge, the digital asset subsidiary of France's third largest bank, Europe's sixth largest bank by total assets, 1.55 trillion euros on the balance sheet, just launched its euro stablecoin, EUR Coinvertible, on the XRP ledger. Live, in production, not a pilot, not a proof of concept. And this isn't some random DeFi stablecoin. SG Forge holds an electronic money institution license from France's banking regulator. ERCV is classified as an electronic money token under the EU's MiCA regulation, making it one of the first fully MiCA-compliant stablecoins in existence. They also hold a MiFID II investment firm license and were the first company to receive France's digital asset service provider license back in July 2023. This thing is triple regulated. Now the XRP ledger is the fourth blockchain for ERCV after Ethereum, Solana, and Stellar. And here's a detail most people are glossing over. The reason SG Forge chose XRPL isn't just about speed and low fees, although, yeah, sub 4-second settlement at fractions of a cent is compelling. The real reason is the Ripple Medico connection. SG Forge has been using Medico for institutional custody since 2022. Ripple acquired Medico for $250 million in May 2023. So SG Forge became a Ripple custody client by inheritance. The XRPL deployment is as much about existing vendor infrastructure as it is about technical selection. But here's the part that's genuinely exciting. Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin has hit approximately $1.5 billion in market cap. It runs on both XRPL and Ethereum. So when you put EURCV and RLUSD together on the same ledger, you get a functional EUR to USD stablecoin corridor. And within 24 hours of launch, the EURCV RLUSD trading pair was already the most active pair on the network. That's institutional foreign exchange, happening on a public blockchain. And Cassie Craddock, Ripple's managing director for UK and Europe, called it, quote, a huge win for the ecosystem, combining institutional-grade compliance with the speed and low costs the XRPL is known for. Now, let's keep it real for a second. EURCV's total market cap is $77 million. For a bank with $1.55 trillion in assets, that's rounding error. It's spread across 4 blockchains, meaning each chain probably has 15 to 20 million in actual liquidity. And there's a bigger threat coming. A consortium of 10 European banks called Covalis, including BNP Paribas, ING, and UniCredit, is forming a competing euro stablecoin launching in the second half of 2026. Société Générale is notably not part of that consortium. But here's what I think most people are completely missing. Just 1 month ago, in January 2026, SG Forge completed a landmark tokenized bond settlement using EURCV through Swift infrastructure. The pilot involved BNP Paribas Securities Services and Intesa Sanpaolo, covering the full bond lifecycle, issuance, delivery versus payment settlement, coupon payments, redemption, all settled with EURCV through Swift's ISO 2022 messaging standard. That means EURCV isn't just a stablecoin for crypto trading. It's being positioned as a settlement rail for traditional securities that plugs directly into the existing global banking infrastructure. And that is the bridge between the old world and the new one. So we've got Ethereum treasury companies collapsing and a top European bank deploying on XRPL. But here's the question that ties it all together. Are banks actually using this infrastructure at scale? And honestly, the answer surprised me. Ripple Payments, formerly known as on-demand liquidity, processed $1.3 trillion in Q2 2025 alone. That's a 32% year-over-year increase. Asia Pacific accounts for 56% of global volume, And Tranglo, Ripple's payment partner in Southeast Asia, has seen ODL volumes surge 1,729% since 2021, now serving 1.5 million users. And here's how it actually works. When a US company needs to pay a Thai supplier, dollars get converted to XRP on an exchange, transmitted across the XRP ledger in 3 to 5 seconds, and converted to Thai baht on the other end. The whole process costs fractions of a cent per transaction. Compare that to SWIFT, which connects 11,000 institutions across 200 countries, processes roughly 150 trillion annually, but settlement takes 1 to 5 business days and costs $26 to $50 per transfer. Banks have to pre-fund accounts around the world, trapping an estimated $10 trillion in idle liquidity just to keep payments moving. Jake Boyle, Chief Commercial Officer at Caleb & Brown, said his accounting team can now, quote, process hundreds and hundreds of US dollar withdrawals in a matter of minutes instead of hours. He called it better SWIFT technology. And Ripple isn't just building payment rails anymore. In April 2025, they acquired Hidden Road, a prime broker clearing $3 trillion annually with over 300 institutional clients, for $1.25 billion. This makes Ripple the first crypto company to own a global multi-asset prime broker. RLUSD will be used as collateral across Hidden Road's prime brokerage products, the first stablecoin to enable cross-margining between digital assets and traditional markets. Then in November, MasterCard, WebBank, and Gemini ran a pilot settling credit card transactions using RLUSD on the XRP ledger. If that scales, it opens the $20 trillion card settlement market. And in December, the OCC conditionally approved Ripple's application for a national trust bank charter, alongside Circle, Paxos, BitGo, and Fidelity Digital Assets. Add the Genius Act from July, which created a federal framework for payment stablecoins, and Ripple now has what I'd call a regulatory triple crown: SEC settlement, federal stablecoin law, bank charter. No other crypto infrastructure company has all three. But let's pump the brakes for a second, because the narrative that Ripple is, quote, replacing SWIFT, end quote, that's what Brad Garlinghouse literally said, needs context. SWIFT GPI already settles 60% of payments in under 30 minutes. The 3 to 5 day comparison that Ripple uses, that's increasingly outdated. SWIFT also just partnered with Consensus and 30-plus financial institutions to build a blockchain-based shared ledger. They're modernizing. Slowly, yeah, but they're not standing still. And here's a stat that should make XRP maximalists uncomfortable. 82% of RLUSD supply sits on Ethereum, not on XRPL. Aave alone holds $330 million of RLUSD. The institutional whales are using Ethereum for DeFi yield, while retail and payment users are on XRPL. If Ripple's own stablecoin primarily lives on a competitor's blockchain, what does that say about XRPL's actual DeFi utility? Plus, Ripple's ODL volume of roughly 5 trillion annually is still only about 3% of SWIFT's throughput. The 14% capture claim Garlinghouse made at XRP Apex? That would require 4xing their current volume in 5 years. Possible, but let's just say it's ambitious. But here's what I think is genuinely significant. The regulatory moat is real. The MasterCard pilot is real. Hidden Road clearing 3 trillion a year is real. SBI Holdings in Japan co-created SBI Ripple Asia and is launching both RLUSD and a JPY stablecoin in the Japanese market. Zan Bank in the UAE is live. Chipper Cash and Yellow Card launched RLUSD across sub-Saharan Africa, where remittance fees average over 8%. There's even a climate insurance pilot in Kenya using RLUSD smart contracts for automated drought payouts. Ripple isn't replacing SWIFT today, but they're building the infrastructure that could make SWIFT's business model obsolete over the next decade. And the institutions building on XRPL, from SG Forge to SBI to MasterCard, those aren't pilot announcements. Those are production deployments. So, let's zoom out and look at the pattern here. Peter Thiel dumps his entire ETHZilla stake after a 97% crash, while Galaxy Digital warns at least five more treasury firms could collapse. 19 billion in unrealized losses across the sector. The pure play crypto treasury model, just hold and hope, is dying. But on the exact same day, Societe Generale launches a MiCA-compliant euro stablecoin on the XRP ledger. Last month, they settled tokenized bonds through SWIFT using that stablecoin. And Ripple is processing over $1 trillion a quarter through real bank partnerships, with a regulatory framework that didn't exist 2 years ago. The institutional money isn't disappearing from crypto, it's just flowing to a different part of the stack, away from passive treasury plays and toward actual payment infrastructure, away from holding tokens and hoping for a premium, and toward building the rails that banks actually use. And honestly, if you're watching token prices instead of settlement volumes, you're watching the wrong thing. The signal is in the plumbing, always has been. If this analysis gave you a perspective you haven't seen anywhere else, hit that subscribe button. I break down institutional crypto moves every single day. And drop a comment, which story surprised you the most today? Thiel dumping ETHZilla, SG Forge choosing XRP Ledger, or Ripple settling $1 trillion a quarter? I want to hear your take. See you in the next one.